Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is the last in my practice session series for the Red Hat Certified Specialist in Identity Management Exam EX362. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button and ring the bell when you do so you know when new content is available. Also, a reminder that the videos in this series should not be considered tutorials, nor should they be considered any type of authoritative training materials. I do these as a part of my final review for the exam. My exam is just over a day away, and I go through all of the objectives by Red Hat and try to talk about whatever the concept is, or maybe do some exercises demonstrating the objective. And at the end of the video, I do a little assessment, and hopefully at this point, since I'm kind of cutting it close, I'll feel confident about the objective. If not, I still have a day to try to do a little bit of review and get the information to the front side of my mind. Or if I had done these earlier, I'd have more time to do more fleshed out review. Since I am still learning the materials, that's one of the reasons why I explicitly say these are not to be considered authoritative or any type of training material. I do try to have the information accurate because hopefully I haven't learned wrong information at this point, but just keep that in mind. I put these out on the internet in hopes of someone else that's working on EX362 might see some of the things that I do in practice and be inspired to create their own exercises to better prepare themselves for the exam. So we've made it to the bottom of the list in the Maintain IdM services. We're going to look at backup and IdM infrastructure and perform a backup without interruption of services. I don't see a need to do two separate practice sessions for these. So let me go into my IdM server and let's look at the topology. So IPA server, topology, and already we have a warning about the CA, which is one of the things I'm going to talk about, and topology graph. So here we have three servers, IdM, and then two replicas, and we have replication agreements between the two replicas and the IdM server. So from a backup and disaster recovery perspective, this is generally not a good configuration because both of the replica servers are depending on the IdM server. To make this more resilient, what we will do is replicate the domain suffix between the two replica servers themselves. And you can, of course, do this on the command line. And I'm just going to put replicate or replication between replica 1 and replica 2. Left and right really doesn't matter, but just making this more consistent. So we're going to add that. And now we have a much more resilient environment. So in this environment, let's say that the replica 1 server goes down. Well, what we could really do is basically spin up another VM, run the replica install. We would need to, create new replicate, or we'll probably have to delete the old replication agreements between IdM server and the replica because obviously they're not going to be valid anymore, and make new replication agreements, and then you're back up and running. And that's really what the design of IdM is supposed to do, is to be resilient. And if an IdM server goes down, or you can have multiples and have all sorts of replications and such, to where you wouldn't have to necessarily rely on a backup to get your environment back and going. Now, that's not saying you shouldn't do backups. Of course you should do backups, but ideally, because the thing with backups is that's all your data at that particular point in time. So you're going to potentially have data loss, versus if one of these just goes away, then the replication can take care of making sure things are going well. Now, the complaint that it was saying was that there's only one of these that has the CA role. So if I go back to server roles, we see the CA is enabled on this. If I go to all the IPA servers, basically managed suffixes is going to tell you if they're CAs or not. Only one of these is acting as a CA. And the thing to remember about the CA is, let's say that I made all of these be CA servers. Then only one of them is actually going to hold the certificate revocation list. But in the environment that I have here, even though I have replication going on between replica 1 and replica 2, if the main IdM server goes down, then the environment is basically hosed because the CA is done. And I think even in a backup situation, or I'm not 100% sure of that. I'm not going to test backup or restoration scenarios with this practice session. A, it's getting late, I'm getting tired, and B, I doubt, I may be wrong, but I doubt I'm going to have to restore IPA on the exam. I think they're probably going to make me like install it and run a backup, but I doubt I'm going to be restoring it. But there are a couple of things that I do want to practice here. And the first, I'm actually going to make the other replicas CA servers. So there's a couple of ways I can do this. I'm going to do it the Ansible way, just because. So let's see. Look at the install replica playbook that I have. I've been using the cluster. Look at my inventory here. Set up CA faults. Okay, I'm going to change this to true. And IPA replicas. All right, I'm just going to try to run the install IPA replica playbook just itself. And I've already set up my access via Ansible and passwordless sudo and all of that. So this should not take very long because all we're doing is just adding the CA. We can also do this at the command line as well with the IPA replica install, and I think it's -- setup -CA. That seemed quicker than expected. Unless it was just super fast. I think that did it. All right, so we can do this. Yeah, we only have one CA server. So why did that? PA replica setup CA true. Oh, I might not be able to do that via Ansible. Let me. Well, now I'm curious. So ls user share doc Ansible free IPA playbooks. Let's look at cert. Nope. So now I'm thinking there's something that I am forgetting, which is entirely possible. That's why I do these practice sessions, to kind of jog my memory and try to get this stuff back to the front side of my head. And it's not cramming for the exam, but it's more of just a part of preparation and trying to get your brain going with that, because obviously I'm not going to learn anything new in the next, 30 hours. So that did not work via Ansible. Do I have to? I shouldn't have to reinstall the replica. I should just be able to add the CA, if I'm remembering correctly. Let me look at cert client. Look at the replica README. User share doc Ansible free IPA README replica. Yeah, IPA replica setup CA. That seems right. Or just make 100% sure. Yeah, I had it spelled correctly. Wonder why that was. Okay, anyway, so let's just go to the replica lab IdM replica 1. We're going to become root. And now I have to see if I can remember the command off the top of my head. This is an example of something like tomorrow I'll kind of do a little refresher of commands and such, just to keep them in my head. So I know we will do CRL manage at some point. IPA CA install. That was it. -- help. Oh yes, it's going to be the standard stuff. I think you'll have to know the directory manager password for this. So IPA CA install. We'll just go with it. Should ask us for the directory manager password. Is there a verbose option? No. All right, so that's good old monkey 123. Of course, I misspelled that. And so basically, it's going to pull all the CA information, because all this stuff is stored in LDAP from the master server, the current one that has the CA. So we have that available. And I think it will also set up a replication agreement. All right, so I'm probably going to break my environment, but I'm a little bit tired of waiting. So this supposedly has finished, but it is stuck on done configuring the server. So let's refresh this here. Kind of surprised it is complaining, still complaining, even though we have the suffixes. Let's look at the topology graph, and there is now a CA. All right, so while that's still chewing on stuff, it's been going for a while now. I wasn't expecting that to take that long. Let's go into lab IdM server, and I want to look at the certificate revocation list and show you a couple of things. So sudo-i IPA CRL gen, I believe so. Manage. Dash help. Not manager, manage. We might have to have a Kerberos ticket for this. I can't remember. Status. I don't know why I insist on making that manager. Okay. And CRL generation enabled. And number 2, and this when it was last updated. So if we needed to, man, it's still stuck on that. So if one of the CAs went down and we needed to, get the CA going, or if we just want to change which CA server is going to have the certificate revocation list, we will basically run CRL manage disable, and then on the other CA do CRL manage enable. So if you're having to do a restoration, just going to keep that in mind. But the root of why we're here, no pun intended, is running the backup commands. So one thing to keep in mind is, in order to not have a stoppage of services for your IdM environment and to get a backup, you will need to set a replica as a hidden replica, which I believe, let's see, IPA, I think it's server status, maybe? Server state. And do -- help. And this is where you can do state enable, state hidden. And so we would do, we would set a replica to state hidden. And all that does is remove some service records. The actual replication and all of that, to the best of my knowledge, is still going on. I don't know why that is stuck. Now I'm curious. Let me log out and back into the GUI. Or better yet, try to do some command line stuff here. IPA server find. Yep, these are all of our IPA servers. So IPA server role find. And we see KRA server is absent on all of them. CA server is enabled on 2 of them. So I don't know why it was thinking that I didn't have that. Maybe it'll be different, logging out, logging back in. Oh, not network services. IPA server. Topology. Yeah, see, now it's not complaining because the CA's on both. So maybe the script is just, oh no, it finished it. Man, that took forever. Huh, well, yay, it finished. All right, so do help topics. Backing up is something that I am relatively weak in with this. I think this is not it's an IPA dash command, as I call them. And yeah, the IPA dash commands, and I'm not sure if that's the real name for these, but it is, these are basically scripts that are running. If I were to do IPA backup -- help, there should be a couple of options here. The data, I believe, is just the basically the LDAP data. It does not have all of the other configurations that are a part of an IdM environment. You can give it GPG to encrypt it. Otherwise, it's going to dump this. So let's just run IPA backup, see what happens. So we're stopping the IPA services on this server. So in theory, let's see if I can log in to one of the clients while this is doing its thing. SSH test user 1, and we're going to go to lab IdM client 1. All right, so that was able to, and that kind of makes sense because there's replicas and such that would be able to make that happen. But the official, and I'm pretty sure this is in the Red Hat documentation, the official way of running this backup, if you want it to not interrupt services, is this perform backup without interruption of services. That would be running this backup against a hidden replica. And as I mentioned before, ideally, if you're in a disaster situation, you will not have lost like all of your IdM servers, and you will be able to spin up another IdM server and just let replication take care of things. But if you do have to restore from backup, this is the way, or this is how you would generate said backup. You know, I should have done verbose. I might do that again, and this time with verbose. Okay, and basically it's going to go to this directory here, var lib IPA backup, and within this backup folder is going to be a tar archive. So we're going to run this again, and this time I'm going to use the verbose option and see what all it's doing. Oh yeah, this makes sense, using IPACTL to basically stop all the services, which honestly is like the longest part of the whole thing. And you see here where it is like grabbing all of the things from Etsy. All right, let me clear my screen, and we're going to run it with just -- data and see what happens. For this is just going to stop the directory server. All right, and we're going to go to the directory. Let's see what we have, or a difference with this. So IPA data and tar tf non-trivial number of files. This almost looks the same as a full backup. That's curious. And so let's do, I said I was not going to do a restore. I guess we can try a restore, because the one thing with the restore is you're going to have to reinitialize your replication agreements, or perhaps you wouldn't have to, but I'm fairly sure that you would. So I guess let me do this. Go into identity. Let's blow away a couple of users. I'm just going to straight up delete them rather than do preserve, which basically gives you a chance to undelete. All right, and let us, IPA should be a restore. Now what I'm curious is, how is it going to pick which one to restore? So let's just see what happens if I just do IPA restore. Oh, must provide backup to restore. Okay, so var lib IPA backup, and is it not going to tab complete that for me? Grumble. ls-l var lib IPA backup. Thought it was in var lib. Oh, I'm on the replica server. That's why. Okay, so IPA restore is probably going to tell us to do the same thing. Yeah, tell us a backup. So now var lib, panicked for a moment there, like, where'd my backups go? IPA backup, and we'll grab the first of the full ones. I guess that would be 23 would be the first of the full ones. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, I want to do verbose with this. Did it again. To use the directory manager, and we will be overriding live data. Yes. Looks like it's trying to deal with the replication agreements. Now, you do have the IPA health check, but I have not found really good ways of testing if replication is working other than like make a user account and see if it replicates. So I would imagine maybe it's just standard operating procedure when you do a restore to go ahead and run the reinitialize your replication agreements command. From a client's perspective, what you could probably do is just re-enroll the client in IPA. I can't imagine using the backup script for just the IPA bits. Re-enroll the client and call it a day. Okay, in theory, that was successful. So let's log out and back in and see what our users look like. And our users are back again. So yay, restore was successful. Again, I'm not 100% sure about how well replication is actually working, but the agreements appear to be there. But the command for that, it's like topology segment initialize or reinitialize. Yeah, that's it. Topology segment reinitialize. And you would give it the, let's go ahead and take a look at the help for that. Yeah, you have to give it whatever suffix, either domain or CA, and then the name of the topology segment. And that should get your replication going back if something seems odd after a restore. So I think for the objectives, I mean, that's, from what I understand, that's really kind of all there is to it. You run IPA backup. It's going to make that directory tree, dump the file out, and then of course in a real production environment you would get that file to some other storage. You would not obviously store that on the IPA server itself long term. So I think if I'm asked to do that on the exam, that shouldn't be too terribly difficult. So I feel fairly confident with that. So hopefully you found the video useful. If you did, make sure you do click like. And I want to take the moment to thank returning subscribers again for watching another video, and invite anyone watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.